I thought Microsoft did a lot of things that were good and right, building parts of the browser into the operating system. Then I thought it out and came up with reasons why it was a monopoly. My first transistor radio was the heart of my gadget love today. It fit in my hand and brought me a world of music 24/7. Everything we did, we were setting the tone for the world. Although I receive a small salary from Apple, I do virtually no real work at the company. Your first projects aren't the greatest things in the world, and they may have no money value, they may go nowhere, but that is how you learn. You put so much effort into making something right if it is for yourself. Not every Apple product makes a big enough difference to me to get instantly, although many do. If I designed a computer with 200 chips, I tried to design it with 150. And then I would try to design it with 100. I just tried to find every trick I could in life to design things real tiny. It would be nice to design a real briefcase. You open it up and it's your computer, but it also stores your books. I want to be able to speak with errors in my wording, errors in my grammar. When you type things into Google search, it corrects your words. With speech, I want it to be general enough, smart enough, to know, no, he couldn't have meant these words that I think he said. He must have really meant something similar. But I know newspapers. They have the First Amendment and they can tell any lie knowing it's a lie, and they're protected if the person's famous or it's a company. All the best people in life seem to like Linux. Steve Jobs had very strong feelings about what makes a company great, what makes products great. He more or less chose Tim Cook to be in that role, in that position. You know what, Steve Jobs is real nice to me. He lets me be an employee, and that's one of the biggest honors of my life. What I was proud of was that I used very few parts to build a computer that could actually speak words on a screen and type words on a keyboard and run a programming language that could play games. And I did all this myself. The more we thought, the more they all sounded boring compared to Apple. You didn't have to have a real specific reason for choosing a name when you were a little tiny company of 2 people, you choose any name you want. Another hero was Tom Swift, in the books. What he stood for, the freedom, the scientific knowledge, and being an engineer gave him the ability to invent solutions to problems. He's always been a hero to me. I buy old Tom Swift books now and read them to my own children. My whole life had been designing computers I could never build. I'd learned enough about circuitry in high school electronics to know how to drive a TV and get it to draw shapes of characters and things. The first Apple was just a culmination of my whole life. My goal wasn't to make a ton of money. It was to build good computers. Hard disks have disappointed me more than most technologies. I just believe that the way that young people's minds develop is fascinating. If you are doing something for a grade or a salary or a reward, it doesn't have as much meaning as creating something for yourself and your own life. Wherever smart people work, doors are unlocked. After the Apple II was introduced, then came the Commodore and the Tandy TRS-80. A lot of hacking is playing with other people, you know, getting them to do strange things. I want the entire smartphone, the entire internet, on my wrist. When I have spare time, I catch up on things I've had to postpone due to lack of time. I sold my most valuable possession, but I knew that because I worked at Hewlett-Packard, I could buy the next model calculator the very next month for a lower price than I sold the older one for. Even if you do something that others might consider wrong, you should at least be willing to talk about it and tell your parents what you're doing because you believe it's right. The way I did it, every job was A+. I worked with such concentration and focus, and I had hundreds of obscure engineering or programming things in my head. I was just real exceptional in that way. I have always respected education, which is why I actually went back secretly and taught school for 8 years. You can make something big when young that will carry you through life. Look at all the big startups like Microsoft, Apple, Google, Facebook, Twitter, etc. They were all started by very young people who stumbled on something of unseen value. You'll know it when you hit a home run. I read Google News and use NetNewsWire to keep up with general and tech news. Steve Jobs didn't really set the direction of my Apple I and Apple II designs, but he did the more important part of turning them into a product that would change the world. I don't deny that. I had a TV set and a typewriter, and that made me think a computer should be laid out like a typewriter with a video screen. The best things that capture your imagination are ones you hadn't thought of before and that aren't talked about in the news all the time. Teachers started recognizing me and praising me for being smart in science, and that made me want to be even smarter in science. For some reason I get this key position of being one of 2 people that started the company that started the revolution. Never trust a computer you can't throw out a window. In some parts of life, like mathematics and science, yeah, I was a genius. I would top all the top scores you could ever measure it by. I have a calendar life that is complicated, so I use BusyCal and Google Calendar. I keep 2 different browsers open to avoid some confusion. I wish to God that Apple and Google were partners in the future. I'm surprised at the extent of the bigotry. But it really plays out when companies or schools take a side and prohibit the other platform at all. We Mac users should be good even when the other side is bad. We should do what we can to accept the other platforms. I think everything I have done in my life, my reasons at the time were right no matter how things worked out. If you try to make such projects, unseen by others, as perfect as any human could, you'll develop skills that other professionals don't have. Creative things have to sell to get acknowledged as such. I believe you should have a world where you've got to license something at a fair price. Don't worry that you can't seem to come up with sure billion-dollar winners at first. Just do projects for yourself for fun. You'll get better and better. It's just not right that so many things don't work when they should. I don't think that will change for a long time. My goal wasn't to make a ton of money. It was to build good computers. I only started the company when I realized I could be an engineer forever. Every dream I've ever had in life has come true 10 times over. Atari is a very sad story. There are good things I see on Samsung phones that I wish were in my iPhone. I wish Apple would use them and could use them, and I don't know if Samsung would stop us.